In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. One of the questions that I get asked a lot is, I'm using ChatGPT or I'm using Claude, and we're not able to customize it enough, and it's not doing exactly what I needed to do. And what should I do next? And the good news is today I get to talk with Michael LaVista, who founded Caxy in the year 2000 as a company dedicated to finding meaningful outcomes and delivering custom technology to capture them to businesses around the world. Over the years, Michael has led Caxy as it has developed a specialty in custom software development and e-commerce. Michael has experience in a variety of sectors, but has considerable strength in manufacturing, private equity, startups, higher education, financial services, and healthcare. And I am fortunate and grateful to have you on the show today, Mike. Thanks for joining me.
Emanuel, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to have our conversation today.
Awesome. Yeah. So 24 years of software development, you've seen a lot of shiny objects come and go. And where do you put the AI bubble in terms of what you've seen over the course of the Caxy lifespan?
Honestly, I'm in the shiny object business, so that's a great setup. Because really, it's all about like you ever see that that Gartner hype cycle graph they always put out? It's like there's sort of like idea and then kind of adoption, then it shoots up, and then people it becomes more commonplace, and then you kind of get a little bit depressed, like it wasn't as good as we thought.
Right.
I think that's happening with AI in general, and it's almost like the special case of LLM, because for those listening, like AI is a lot of things, and there's this little tiny circle called LLM that everyone knows about now because of Chat and Claude and all the stuff you just listed out. And so now it's about like, how do we make the most of that? And in our business, a lot of what we do is because I think you're kind of a marketing focused audience. What we try to do is we try to create differentiation for companies. So if you're a CEO, you're probably worried about it, like three things. You're worried about differentiation, risk, and then managing growth, right? And so where you can leverage AI is, can we come up with something special and unique? And honestly, a lot of what you're seeing now is at some point, like we've squeezed out whatever LLMs are going to do for us. I think it was the CEO of Google came out last week and said, all right, all the low hanging fruit has been done. Like we figured out we can make some okay videos. We can do some messaging. We can do some customer service. And now we're at the next kind of, chasm is like, how do we leap over to use really, really interesting things? So, in terms of like, what's the current shiny object, it can do some really, really cool stuff. And to your point in the intro, it reaches a point where it's like, well, if everyone can do this, it isn't really a differentiator anymore. We got to find something special and next. And that's kind of what we think about.
Yeah, that's cool. I do think it's amazing, like what I call like the retailization of the LLMs, right? Where everybody has access to Chat or Claude. And there's, I've seen that now NVIDIA has got their LLM, and they're doing a training course, and there's a big push. Adoption is a little flat right now, though, in all the studies that I've seen. So it's kind of like the first push of us that we're gonna do it and get our feet wet got in, and so I guess how do we get that next layer of participant into using this for the benefits of efficiency and the leverage of time and doing things that we either don't like or are not good at?
Oh, no, it's a really good question. I think for when I think about for companies, it's all about how do you because I think if we start with, hey, here's this tool, let's use the tool, you fall into that, I have a hammer and everything looks like a nail problem. But if we start from what are the problems to solve, then you can figure out, whether AI fits in, if it's LLM, and if so, how are we going to do it? Because one of the things I see right now, there's an idea. I'd love to coin a phrase, and maybe you can help me come up with a better one. But I'm getting a little bit of what I'm calling content fatigue, where people are using LLMs. I can tell it's an LLM, and
Yep.
it's too long, it's too much, and they get me every day with it. And there's listeners will correct me on whoever this is, but there's this writer who's got this famous quote that goes, apologies for the long letter. It would have been shorter if I had more time, because like it's really easy to just it's easy to barf it all out there, but to
Yep.
condense it down, and that's what content and writing is really about. And I think that applies to kind of how we use it. So if we're just taking a giant, hose and spraying everything with LLMs, it's going to get fatiguing. And people know, like we had a conversation internally at the company today where we had to come up with like a rule that's like, okay, for one, like don't use these LLMs for your code. So for those who don't know, you can go to a chat GPT and say, write me some computer code for how to do this thing. And it's okay for a small, discrete, acute problem task. It's not really good at all for a really big one. And I think the same applies for content. So like, I don't want to see a consulting deliverable that was written by ChatGPT, because guess what? I could have done that too for 30 cents. So I think we really to find bigger problems to solve. Where I see the frontier of where all the money's really going to be made, and all the value is going to be created for both companies and customers is in personalization. So the idea that, like for years you've logged in and, hey, welcome Emmanuel, here's, your list of things, whatever. That's become kind of commonplace. I think the world where I can actually do something meaningful for you, knowing about your past behaviors on the site and some other data and some other stuff, that's where you could create a kind of competitive advantage. And that's where people are going to have to do what I'm going to call sort of like real AI, where you're actually building a model based on you as opposed to just some kind of LLM model. I think personalization is the next frontier.
Yeah, I like that, and I want to see more tools that are grabbing real time weather, real time events,
Mm,
real time situations, and then bringing that to me and say, "Hey, it's going to be raining today in Arcata, California. Did you remember to get an umbrella for everybody in the family?" Right?
right.
And I think there's a certain amount of dynamism that we haven't quite really
Yeah.
attached to at the software level.
No, that's a great point. And the real timeness, if that's a word, we'll coin two words today. But
Yeah.
the real timeness of these things, it can matter, because that's where you're going to make a difference with, like you said, weather, or even just like, like honestly, supply chain. The more we know about weather, but also transportation and the cost of gas and all these kind of things, to be able to have a business be able to make some predictions and decisions. Obviously tariffs have been in the news. Like, do you make a decision now about, do I buy all my 2025 inventory today, or
Yeah.
do I wait and roll the dice and see what happens? That could be an AI task, or kinds like that could be something we see in the future.
I love that. Yeah. Well, yeah, and then yeah, supply chain. Um, Shifting a little bit, are you seeing more activity from B2B clients or direct consumer clients in the software development?
I got to be honest, most of our work has been B2B over the years, but kind of getting me thinking on my feet here a little bit.
Good.
Um, we've A lot of what we've done over the last few years has been more SaaS. So while our customer is a B2B customer for us, our end consumer of the product is customer. And
Yep.
honestly, just to kind of like fulfill my own prophecy here, a lot of the work has been around customization. So if we
Sure.
build a big SaaS product, we have a customer that's financial wellness tool called Best Money Moves, where what we want to be able to do is deliver you personalized kind of money advice from, here are deals in the credit market, here are deals about, mortgages, but also training about, how to buy a home and how to pay down debt and all these kind of things. So like the more we know about you, the more we can give you an actual kind of set of guidelines that isn't just for anybody, and I think that increases usage through the roof. By the way, for anyone interested in investing in personalization, if you're actually helping me, providing value, I'll use that tool.
Absolutely, and especially, and talk about fatigue. I have a fatigue around working with a company, a vendor, and they're forcing me to go through and do their checklist survey again to figure out who the heck I am and what I
Right.
want.
Yeah.
Right? Like, um, I kind of have the theory that if I fill that out once, then you guys should be accessing that every time
Yeah.
I'm coming back to buy from you.
Yeah. Not to mention, you should probably already know.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
If I'm any sort of repeat customer, you've got, what I looked at, what I put in a cart and didn't buy, and what I thought about, and even, like all this public available data about, where I am and zip code. I mean, you can get us, I'm sure we've all seen this, the scary amount of data you can get from, zip code and all these kind of things, that you can make a pretty good guess about, kids and where you're going to college and things brands you interact with and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's there for the taking, with not a ton of work, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's, as I've established, there's about very easily 13,000 data points that a company can
Yeah.
find in some form or fashion, and so I'm excited when I'm in the actual buying process, not kind of like not when I'm sniffing, like that
Hmm.
still feels creepy to me when they know too
Yeah.
much about me when it's somebody I haven't worked with. But once I'm a customer, then yeah, solve my problems for me in advance so I can get it off my list.
Yeah. And here's my pitch to any companies listening. Please make the online experience connected to the in-store experience, because we all have that thing where you go in and they go, "Oh, you bought this online, you can't return that here." Like, I mean, we're all in
Right.
technology. We know the systems talk to each other. Like, really, and
Yep.
this is where I get to like what the next some of the next frontiers are. I think the more companies pay attention to the full customer experience, the full customer journey from, as you just said, from sniffing to online to in store, if we can connect that experience, and like imagine, maybe this is too creepy, but you go into the store and you're checking out and they can see that you looked at that fleece last week. Hey, I saw you were looking at this fleece that's on sale. Did you know? Like, that's
Right.
actually a service to me, but I
Agreed.
haven't seen anyone have a truly connected in-store experience like that.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
also
point.
tell you, I have a client who told me that, it is in retail, so grain of salt, but that some huge percentage of commerce is still conducted at the store, and I think he said 85%. So as much as we think that it's all moved online, from a dollar point of view, it's actually still mostly in store.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that you have to be able to try or feel or put
Yeah.
on, right? Like I'm looking for a pair of very expensive European made hiking boots that are specialty
Mhm.
hiking boots. I'm not going to order 3 pairs just so I make sure I get the right pair and then send 2 back, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Oh,
and probably, Facebook and Instagram know about that, and so every time you're in there, they're showing you boots and boots and boots, and, that's, maybe that's a service, I don't know.
yeah. What do you say for people for people who are running companies? They need to develop some guide rules and guidelines for their staff around LLMs and how to use software. What kind of policies and procedures are best practices from your perspective, Mike?
So, I mentioned earlier, I think one of the things, this is more preference, but I think it's sound strategy. I don't think you want the voice of ChatGPT to be what customers see unvarnished, because I think we've gotten to a point now where it was a novelty and kind of cool to begin with, but we can all tell what that is. And to be honest, I feel like there's an ad campaign running right now or like um I think it's an Apple ad where someone writes kind of an angry email and then has them rephrase it and he sends that. I would be terrified as an organization if that's what's happening, just because it's not going to feel like a human. So I feel like what you want to do is, I think like all technology, as an organization, figure out what the technology is good at and use it for that. So, for example, I
Yep.
would argue, LLMs are great at give me 21 ideas about how to ideas for the Christmas email, right? And now here's 21 ideas. Great. These 3 are terrible. That one's okay. That one okay. Let's have people work with number 7 and 12, and then you go do that. Handing it off terrifies me. I feel like I've seen in other things where it's like, have an LLM read your HR manual and have it be like the frontline HR thing. I
Right.
mean, I can imagine lawyers' hairs catching on fire as soon as they hear about that. It's like really like figure out like where, like what, because there's a risk that it's not right, right? And so that's the figure out, great at ideation, great at, like, honestly, I did this thing the other day. It sounds so trivial and ridiculous. I took my wife to Paris to see Paul McCartney, And
Nice.
after we were done, there's a website that lists the set lists online. So I was like, I wonder if ChatGPT can help me with this. So I grabbed the set list, I put it in ChatGPT, and I go, hey, can you make a Spotify playlist from this? And it goes, I can't, but I can make a file that this other site can use, and it will upload into Spotify. So 5 minutes later, I had my Spotify playlist of the concert. Like, figure out what it's good at, because that would have taken me 15 minutes and would have been annoying. I think as a developer, like all developers want to like automate stuff, and even if it takes you 4 times longer to write the script, like you'll do it because that's your mindset. So figure out what it's good at, and lean into that, and be really careful about what you just sort of like set out into the world.
Yeah, I like it. The kind of the shorthand that I'm working with now is I want to use AI first for everything, but you got to have a human in the loop. You got to have somebody managing and monitoring and making sure that the KPI that you established is actually being met.
Right. Yeah, because they don't know from KPIs. They don't know how to like manage it versus a number. And also, like I make this joke at my uncle's expense, who's a lawyer, who says everything with 100% confidence, even if he's wrong. And that's what ChatGPT is, So it's like, I can't remember what the example was, but it was, who is the all-star from the 2010 MLB all-star game, whatever, and it very confidently said the wrong player and listed his stats and all these things were completely invented, right? That hallucination thing is very real. Because here's the area of interest. I actually was playing with this morning, like this idea of having we've probably all seen this online lately, and we could probably do this for our podcast. Have an AI create like the little 3-second video of copyright free material that is Mike and Emanuel just talked about shopping for boots, right? We could make a little person boot walking across the screen for 3 seconds that your producers could pop in there. That just makes the video a little bit better, right? Stuff like that, little sprinkles. Totally. That sounds great. Full movies. I'm not going to watch an AI movie yet, right? They're in the future, right? But full AI movies, I think is a decade away or something.
Yeah, that's I like that. And there actually, I could picture this real time emoji reactor popping in on the bottom of the video for that.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. So, what do you see, or what are you seeing in terms of ideas that are coming to you, and like how small of an idea is too small for an AI software project versus how big you want to have a minimally viable product.
So great question that ties in, I think, to what we were just talking about. Here's where I think AI can be real. So what companies can do. I think AIs can be really great at prototyping stuff that would have been too expensive to try before. So that whole that long tail idea. So if a company in the past had 10 ideas, we would come to them and be like, you can probably afford to do 1 or 2, but like certainly not all 10, right? Whereas right now, you could probably bang out AI versions of those 10 ideas and kind of see like, does this because like, honestly, this is a great analogy you said earlier. It's just like online to being in a store. There's some things you want to try on, and software, it turns out you want to try on. So try this idea, play with it a little bit. Honestly, now that I see it, that idea is no good. But number 6 that we were going to pass on, actually, you know what? Now let's get professionals to turn this mock-up proof of concept thing. Let's get professionals to turn that into something real, because this actually might have legs. I think that's where you could use AI really effectively.
Interesting. And I know you do a lot of things around finance and healthcare. Are there any other areas that you really like to dig in and produce for?
Yeah. The area that we lean to the last couple of years from a marketing point of view, because we do serve a lot of different industries, is we found that in the U.S., the manufacturing space, especially like in like the 100 to 200 million range, where you have something that you're doing and you've grown really quickly, you're at a point where your company might be on spreadsheets and and luck and kind of half implemented ERP. There's such an inflection point there where now is your time, if you can convert to more of a digital process, your growth to, let's say, $1 billion is now not encumbered with bad processes and too much labor costs being too high and processes not being right. Like, that's a great spot for us to get involved. That's where we've really been focusing. And I think manufacturing and just industrial in general coming back to the US and being kind of a strength again, I think is happening. And I think we can power it with tech better than we are now.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, I think with the
Mm,
the new regime that's coming in, that seems to be part of their focus, and hopefully
mm.
that will happen. We'll get some of those jobs back.
Yeah.
Well, it's good stuff, Mike. Let's see if people want to get in touch with you and have a conversation, no matter how small. How do they catch up with you?
I think so. My company is Caxy, Caxy. So if you go there, Caxy.com, drop us a note, or you can find my podcast is the Digital Transformist, and that's on all the things you might find. And
Yep.
get me on Twitter at just Michael LaVista.
All right, that's awesome. Well, thanks. I appreciate your time, and hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Emmanuel. It was fun. Good conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Well, there you go. We got to stay focused on what the outcome is that we want to produce, and then find the software tool to produce it, rather than the other way around. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to having you on the next show.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.